Wonderful! Now I just need a few more things.
This may seem to have no correlation to the series I have planned to talk about today, but did anybody else have a specific Goosebumps book cover that they almost couldn't even look at as a child, or as an adult? Anyways, because I had probably two. The first one was probably The Haunted Mask. That cover was pretty freaky, but I was still able to read the book and enjoy it. On the other hand, Night of the Living Dummy had a cover so petrifying, so soul-stealing, that I remember when pulling the book out of the bookshelf for the first time as a child, I dropped the book and ran the other direction crying. Hell, the covers for the next two entries are equally as terrifying. Perhaps it's just that weird design that just shook me so badly, because now that I think about it, the marionette scene from the Polar Express had to be skipped because I was just too scared of that damn puppet. This might also explain why the beginning of Monsters, Inc. used to scare me so much too. It wasn't the monster or anything like that. It was this freaky kid who just haunted me so badly. But he does look kinda similar to our puppet villains over here. Needless to say, the reason I'm going on this long rant about scary looking puppets is the first thumbnail for this analog horror series. Harmony and Horror looks just like the evil dummy from my past, coming back to reignite that fear. Harmony and Horror as of this moment is a 2-season long horror series on YouTube created by Baddington. It has been one of the most requested series I check out, even since the beginning of me talking about analog horror, and it saw a recent uptick when I made my Five Nights at Freddy's video. It's pretty clear looking at all these thumbnails that we are probably going to be in for something of that similar vein. We're going to check out the first 10 entries into this first season playlist, as this is a beefy one, so strap on in and grab your comfort snacks, cause Lord knows we ain't getting comfy anytime soon after this.
But before I let you get too far, just wanted to say if you're new here and enjoy what you're watching, be sure to hit all those neat buttons down below, including the subscribe and bell notification so you can be a part of every new upload. Also, real quick, just wanted to mention that as of this moment, me and some others are going to be at Phoenix Fan Fusion all 3 days, May 24th through the 26th. Not affiliated with the event in any ways, just going to have a fun time, so if any of you already have tickets or are planning on it, you might see some familiar faces. There will more than likely be more info and details as the convention gets closer, but anyways, now you can pass through.
Lost VHS tape, Henry.mp4. It's December 25th, 1985, just barely Christmas morning, where we can see this doll slumped over against the wall. In the background, we can hear what sounds like a young girl talking to her father, trying to explain to him how she broke the toy. It's not really that big of a deal. The arms just came off, and it's a toy. Needless to say, the dad seems still a little confused, but the girl says that he won't stop crying. This doesn't appear ominous at all. After the camera glitches out, we then go into what looks to be security footage from this either toy factory or toy store, and right out of Five Nights at Freddy's, we periodically check both ends of the building to make sure all the dolls are staying where they should be. Given that they are just dolls, they shouldn't be going anywhere. We've moved ahead to August 11th of 1986, and we are either in the eyes of an actual person or an automated security feed, but I'm not too sure how fancy those got in the 80s. The camera glitches out a bit, and we see that a visitor has come by to pay a visit. The hash-slinging slasher moves his way towards the front two doors, before we get a really brief flash of light, and at first I could not make this out, but after going frame by frame, it's clear that this is from the POV of someone getting prepped for surgery, about to be knocked out. When we come back, however, our figure is gone, and coincidentally, we get a new friend coming up from the middle just as a couple dolls go missing from the top right shelf. After that nightmare, we are met with yet another, as this pretty creepy doll stares directly into our soul. Based on the title, I'm going to refer to this guy as Henry. After a bit, he begins to communicate. I can't feel my arms. I can't feel my legs. Yet I only feel pain. There is something inside me, something that beats. He then looks directly into our souls yet again, like it wants to get out. And by this next part, I'd say he really wants to get out. Now I have a couple theories already as to what could be going on here. Now to be fair, this is all I've seen, so I'm totally banking on being wrong. At first, when the doll said he couldn't feel his arms, I imagined that had to do with the fact the kid ripped them off. But then he said something about something being inside of him that beats. All this can make me think of is that quick frame where it looked like someone was being put under, ready to go through some sort of operation. Is it possible That some crazed lunatic toymaker decided to surgically put organs into his dolls? Sounds like you've got yourself the plot of the Pinocchio horror flick. I don't know why that was what I first thought of, but this is going to be some kind of Five Nights inspired piece. I feel like that would be a very cool spin on the dead bodies inside animatronics idea. WakeUpBonzo.mp4. If I had to guess, it appears we are back with the same father and daughter from the beginning of the last entry, except we are a bit prior, dating ourselves on April 8th, 1985. I normally wouldn't pay much attention to the time, but this one really needs our focus. At 8:46 p.m., our dad leaves for work, I imagine after he puts his daughter to bed. Then we cut to 3:24 a.m. of the same day, so this must have happened prior. We can hear what sounds like a dog yelping, which isn't fun, before our character opens the door and we see what looks like a full-fledged animatronic suit of this stuffed bunny, presumably named Bonzo. We go back to 8:46 p.m. just to be met with some light flickering by the little toy. I could just be overthinking the time changes on the camera, but we very subtly fade to 4:06 in the morning. Still on the 8th, which would mean this is prior. Not too long after, we jump back to 9:54 p.m., back in front of that door. Once it's open, all we can see is the pitch black of the room. Well, that is until he turns his flashlight on. We return to our plush toy, who is now looking at us head on, while a distorted face begins to appear in the background. We cut to black for a bit before someone must have slipped something into our drinks. This entry probably destroyed my toymaker theory, but this one was a bit harder to pull clues from. It sounded more like a dog behind the door. Is this some kind of dog animatronic hybrid? That would certainly be something to behold. Goodbye Arthur.mp4. Perhaps I wasn't that far off with my theory after all. This entry begins and we are introduced to the Ice Cream Man. Can you sing along with the Ice Cream Man? Don't count on it. Before we can get very far into a sing-along, we start to glitch out. We then cut to this back office area where it sounds like the designer for these mascots, as he refers to them, talking to someone else.
Look at that. What do you think? New mascot will get the kids' attention, huh?
We can also see our Henry doll sitting creepily in the back. Our designer, now called Martin, is probably not a very good guy considering the shocking line our other character drops.
Don't act stupid, Mark. The thing nearly killed me last night. Arthur, I told you got hit by a car. And whose car did it hit? Whose car has a stain on its bumper? Arthur, please, the dog needs nothing.
This conversation between Arthur and Martin proceeds to keep getting more and more heated. And I don't know about you, but from the way their voices sound, it sounds like Martin is our father character we heard talking in the last entry, and that would mean Arthur was the one who opened the door and could hear the dog's cries, which would also explain the time differences. Martin quickly gives up the act and just starts to talk like a straight-up villain. One of these lines sticks out to me a little bit. It's when Arthur tells Martin that he turned the dog into one of those monstrosities that he warned would be a bad idea. So Arthur was aware of this idea Martin had for some kind of bad shit. What kind of monstrosities was Martin originally trying to make? Is he just referring to animatronics? It's possible, but it's up in the air right now. Martin continues to go on and on about how now the dog listens to him and how his work was actually genius. But then Arthur tells him that he and Martin's wife Gloria had already talked and were planning on taking the kids away from him so that they wouldn't be in danger. Martin reveals that he was already aware of everything going on and hints at something much more sinister.
We're leaving tomorrow morning. I know. I knew what was going on between you two. But it's not like that. I fixed that little problem. What do you mean you? What have you done? First the dog wouldn't listen to me, then my wife. I'm not gonna let anyone let me down, including you!
In a shocking turn of events, Martin shoots Arthur, and I can only imagine, based on the frame of our slumped ice cream man, Arthur is going to be donning that role. It does look like, however, we get teleported into the actual back rooms, let me tell ya. But pretty quickly, we are visited by a familiar entity. If what Martin said is true, and he killed his wife, I am starting to think this might be her. Text on screen that just says, "Come with me," starts to flash on screen, before this lady does the absolute scariest thing imaginable. We then flash back to our ice cream man where he starts to glitch out and we get text that faintly reads, "Behind you." Uh-oh. We are then returned to the back rooms where our ice cream man begins to lurk in the corner. I wonder if that backrooms moment with that wife entity was this world's version of passing on into the afterlife. Except it's an eternal limbo where you're stuck in a mascot ice cream suit. I gotta say, the animations throughout these couple entries have been doing a really good job at being creepy. The stop-motion-esque movements really add to it just not looking right. I want a toy.mp4. This entry opens up and we are shown a promotional poster and song for this new Henry puppet doll. This seems to be like one of those strange TV ads for these creepy toys, kinda like Woody's Roundup in Toy Story 2. After Henry sings his little song, we fade to the scene where he is laying down alongside a highway.
A little star, how I wonder where you are.
We then fade back and do a rerun of him singing the same song. You're gonna drive me crazy, Henry. We are shown yet again the scene with Henry at the edge of the highway, and it does sound like the sound of cries in the back. We return yet again to Henry singing his song, except things are very noticeably different, like Henry's lack of eyes and the lack of singing.
Sure is dark out. Would you want to sing with?
Our highway scene this time also now includes the ice cream man creeping up from behind. We go back to Henry singing one more time. In this instance, his voice becomes a loud siren. Before it appears the ice cream man has a secret evolution he's waited until now to share. As the alarm continues to sound in the background, we flash in and out of this scene where Henry has his head cut off, and there's this weird red figure standing behind him. He did say in the first entry that there was something inside that needed to get out. I would hope that is not some skinless person wandering around, but you know, that could very well be what it is. We end up going into a scene where it looks as if we are inside a closet, where either we or someone else is banging on the door as cries can be heard. This next moment we get is definitely one of the more haunting moments in this series.
My daddy loves me. He loves me so. Even if he beats me though.
So if I had to keep theorizing, I can only imagine that this is all the work of Martin, and the story Henry is telling is of his own death at the hands of his father. Henry, you don't need to keep looking towards the screen, buddy. How interesting that it does actually seem like this Martin guy is some sort of toy maker or animatronic engineer who killed his family and then mixed the parts together to create these living dolls. That's close enough to my original theory that I'm gonna give myself a point. Don't Cry, MP4. This tape opens up and we are introduced to a new mascot, Sophia the Singing Marionette. Sophia, right off the bat, must have something incredibly wrong going on. After we get that jump scare, we are met with this really bizarre sequence, where we see this little baby doll crawling around and occasionally looking at us, which I don't like. They also have a funny use of song choice, considering I was just getting to the point where I could listen to it without shitting myself. The doll turns around and we get text that just reads "Mama." We then cut to the ice cream man yet again, who looks to be having a really tough time. It appears that he bashes his own head against the wall and causes this pretty nasty injury. But then a hand comes up and takes off the mask to reveal quite the gruesome sight. I guess the true question is, how many kids did Martin have? Because if he had 3, this would make sense, considering the scene we are met with next.
Macy! I order you to come here right now!
In this really tense and dreadful scene, it sounds like Martin is really abusing the crap out of his daughter, and probably has already mutilated her into the doll. If this is Martin, it sounds like he meets a well-deserved fate.
What are you doing? Get back in your room like I told you to. Didn't you hear me? No.
Perhaps it is being told to us that Martin ends up inside that weird clown suit. It's what he wore to scare Macy, and the constant hold on this mask is making me think that's the case. The end of this entry truly caught me off guard. The marionette, who I can only imagine is now Macy, asks if we are going to sing for her, and we are presented with two options, yes or no. Except, each answer has its own entry. A choose-your-own-adventure moment in an analog horror was also not on my bingo card. I'm feeling generous today, Macy. I will sing for you. Yes, I shall sing. I don't think singing was the right choice. No, I shall not sing. Not singing may also not lead us to anywhere good, but it does appear to show us exactly how Martin met his fate. I mean, just look at how happy he is. Good boy. This tape begins and we are met with an advertisement from M&A Harmony Toys. Turns out this is an ad for that little punny... for that little... fuck. Turns out this is an ad for that little bunny plush we saw in the earlier entries. It's actually called Stitch Buddy. And by the way this guy describes this thing, it really sounds like a Confess-a-Bear from SpongeBob.
I did something recently I'm not proud of.
Not sure why it says it can't talk when it so clearly spoke to us. When our narrator says that he will keep all your darkest secrets, the screen starts to strip to black, and I start to wonder what secrets lie within this little guy. The segment we are presented with next shows us the first testing phase of when Martin used his dog for this machine.
Otto! Stand!
This next bit really makes me think that the plushie form is just symbolism, because I don't think this thing can transform like this. We are then shown a really weird scene given all the context of Martin giving Bonzo commands.
Otto! Speak! Good boy. Now I just want you... Who could that be?
I believe the doorbell we hear in the background is Arthur, coming to confront Martin. Once Bonzo is left alone for a bit, he starts to get quite interested in the camera filming him. We then cut to this moment where we see the plush Bonzo as he slowly turns his head towards the camera. I gotta say, I truly do think this is more than just stuffing a body inside a suit. This guy seems to be actually blending the person and suit together so that it works as a living creature, so to speak. This Martin Menace is out here creating Frankenstein monsters out of everyone in his family. Rest assured. .mp4. I have two possible theories for this entry, but I will speak on them after we go through it. Throughout this tape, it looks as if we are watching this weird rehabilitation tape, where the narrator goes on to try and put whoever is watching at ease. Not much ease was provided after this borderline threatening statement about breathing.
Our first exercise is a breathing technique. At first, you may feel as if no air is going in. Rest assured that your angel will take care of you. It knows what to do.
Throughout this tape, we see quick glimpses of some familiar faces. Our first one is Henry, who is creeping behind a street post. After our narrator tells us that our fears and regrets can't hurt us, we see a figure coming up from over the Windows Vista mountain. As they get closer and closer, it becomes apparent that this is our Mr. Ice Cream Man, looking all damaged up from his head bashing he did earlier. He continues to keep getting closer and closer to the camera before we get a new shocking reveal.
No one can hurt you.
This almost solidifies Arthur as being the ice cream man. And not only that, but Martin's brother as well. At this point, all of Martin's victims have been a member of his own family. We see a classic Jack-in-the-Box that slowly plays on until our clown jumps in from the side to close out our entry. Now onto my theories for this. The first one is that this little world being displayed on the rehabilitation tape was kind of like this afterlife setting where Martin woke up after getting attacked by Macy. His inner voice trying to tell him that his fears and guilt can't hurt him here, and come to find out, they probably can. And Arthur Ice Cream is back with a vengeance. It would also make sense to see his son, possibly Henry, hiding behind the tree. But it's possible that Mr. Ice Cream Man was trying to say no-no on passing peacefully and throwing him into the Jack-in-the-Box clown. My other theory is a little bit less imaginative, and it's that this is the clown watching this weird rehabilitation tape, as it looks like you can barely make out his reflection against the screen, as if he was watching it on his own television. But I kinda like my first theory better. She can't sleep.mp4. Whenever I feel like my theory couldn't get any more rock solid, a wrench gets thrown in to completely put it into shambles. Now with that, let's get into this tape. The first thing we are met with is a conversation with who I can only imagine is Martin and Macy. Everything seems a little normal. Macy is pretty upset because she wants a lullaby and can't sleep without them. So Martin comes up with a proposition.
But I want a lullaby before I sleep.
How's about I make you a toy that can sing forever? Would that make you feel better?
We then get presented with quite the haunting image of Sophia the singing marionette, but she does sing us a neat tune that definitely doesn't go off the rails at any point. Look at that happy face inside the doll. We end up cutting back to the house, and I gotta tell you, this whole sequence is really something else.
Stay right there, don't come out. Stay right there.
It unfortunately sounds as if Macy's mother had been shot by Martin, and she runs to hide in this other room, where Sophia is literally sitting around a bunch of upside-down crosses in a clear-as-day ritual. So Macy didn't get put inside the marionette doll, but was possessed by a spirit of some sort. Perhaps back in the entry Don't Cry, Sophia was trying to protect Macy in some way. Who's to say, but I was pretty on board with Macy being the marionette, so now I don't know what to think. But given what we see here, this Sophia doll is not one I'd like to be trapped in a room with. We then get a scene that requires the captions on to tell us what these two characters are saying. And if this doesn't confirm that Martin is the clown, I don't know what will. Henry refers to the clown as Dad, and tells him that he is unable to see. He can't see anything. The clown responds by saying he's mad at you. Everyone is. Henry apologizes and says he won't ask again, but again asks for his eyes to be fixed, and that everything hurts. Buddy, if only you knew what was about to come in the next 5 seconds. Our tape ends on that shot of Sophia with her mouth held open, and the weird smile taking place inside. New theory. Martin is only able to make these incredibly amazing toys because of a deal he made with the devil or just some demonic entity. Who knows, maybe that's how he got super big in the industry. It also allowed him to make these weird living dolls that have people's insides all stuffed into it. We know that Martin used his dog to make this Bonzo animatronic, and it's heavily implied Martin killed his son, who is Henry. And Arthur is the ice cream man. If Martin isn't the clown then, perhaps the clown is that evil demonic entity that he was working with to make these weird toys. A whole lot of questions, and whenever I think I got a sturdy answer, something else comes in to throw me for a loop. Are you happy? Given this entry, I am amazed I haven't stumbled upon this yet, given just how high quality it has become. I said it briefly a bit earlier, but the animations in this series have just continually been getting better and better. And this was all 3 to 4 years ago. I'm very late to this. The tape begins and we are watching an M&A Harmony cartoon of some sorts. But before getting to that, we had a brief flash which shows a newspaper clipping that I doubt I am able to fully translate, but I will do my best. Manipulative Toys something, co-owner of Harmony Play Inc., Martin Graywinder, claims to have created the most lifelike toy to have ever been made. Robs many families of their money by selling them toys that are more dead than alive. I was semi-serious when I said Martin made a deal with the devil, but it actually might be the case. We then get to see this neat animated segment where we are introduced to Marcus and Andrew, plus their dog. According to Marcus, the toy maker is in town and they want to go ask him to make the perfect toy. We are shown a brief frame that looks to go over the specifications of the Sophia marionette. Sophia the singing marionette is a prototype model for an upcoming new toy. The toy is operated with strings. Sophia is capable of listening to children talking and can see. It will recognize its child owner unless the child is crying. Sophia will offer many songs to sing to children. Parents are asked to not interrupt the toy while singing. What happens if we interrupt the toy, huh? What happens? Anyways, Marcus and Andrew make their way down the street. You can even see this creepo watching them in the alley. Just like an episode of Dora, we are asked if we can find the toy maker, as our two kids are having a tough time. Maybe it's the guy who looks awfully similar to the guy creeping on you in the alley. When asked if he can make the perfect toy, he gives them the bad news that it is impossible. He can make toys that blink, walk, eat, and talk. But in truth, they aren't actually fun, because the best types of toys are the most lifelike. But his toys just aren't cutting it. The kids ask if there's anything they could do to help him make the perfect toy, and his response is quite something to say the least.
Is there anything we could do to help?
Why, yes, there is.
It's quite impressive how quickly this guy went from kind of creepy to utterly sinister in one head turn. According to the toy maker, he needs 3 key ingredients and needs the kids to help him get them for him. And again, he has very interesting responses to these children.
So you'll have to get them for me.
But we don't have any money.
Don't you want to be happy?
First up is a needle and thread. But before we go anywhere, we are met with this dark hallway with 2 doors, where the one straight ahead slowly starts to open, but we quickly cut back to our main characters. It looks as if they found the thread alongside this oddly body-shaped bag. You can also see Banzo laying on his back there. I hope he's doing alright. The kids open up the bag, and what do you know? There's a dead body in there, and the face looks like someone stole some important features. But forget the body, we found the needle. They return with the supplies and then are sent to go off to get fabric and paint. We return to our ominous hallway and we can see a very beaten up Henry tries to walk out. But based on the shadow, he's clearly being puppeted. Like last time, Marcus and Andrew return with what was needed. And the third thing the toy maker needs, I don't like very much.
The next thing I need is your dog.
What? What do you need him for?
The toy needs to be happy. And it can't be happy without a friend.
Andrew reluctantly hands Bonzo over to the toy maker, who tells them to come back later for the final step. Back in the hallway, the door to the left opens up first, before someone decided they wanted to come running. The kids return and the toy maker says the toy is on the other side of this door, and the last thing he needs from them is their voice. He needs them to sing a specific song, and they were told to repeat after him. Unfortunately, when they sing, this huge warning message pops up, warning us that our safety is in jeopardy by viewing and or hearing the original audio/video. But to be fair, Bonzo has taken over the center screen, so I think safety is out the window. After the song, he opens the door to reveal his creation.
It's just behind this door.
Yeah, I'm sure they're gonna love it. We see his creation as good old Bonzo, but in animatronic form, before we begin to fade on what I thought was initially missing posters. But it's clear now, these were the toy maker's victims and their graphic causes of death. None of these kids seem to be Andrew or Marcus, but our last poster is sadly of Bonzo. God, I hate this guy. So I guess if I had to give a theory to end this part on, I would say that Martin was a decent toy maker, but his work started to suck, or it always sucked. But at some point, children were not having fun with his toys. So he strikes a deal with powers beyond his control to have the ability to create these horrific toy monstrosities, like how Arthur described it. Whether or not this animated episode with Marcus and Andrew was just a big symbolic way of showing how Martin the toy maker was a huge piece of shit, it's clear that he made the kids say this weird incantation to bring their mangled dog back to life in the toy. This is going in some really wild directions, and we're only halfway through the first season. While it's clear that this was Five Nights inspired in some areas, it mostly manages to put a completely new and unique spin on just about every area. No need to worry, as I will for sure be covering the second half of this season soon, because I need to know what happened. There are so many possibilities on where this whole thing could end up, and I for one am still not set yet on a theory. Like last time, I could literally just be rambling off like a lunatic, but there's gotta be something I got right. If you made it this far, I thank you for watching all the way to the end. Be sure to stick around for the next part I will be doing in the coming weeks. Also, if you enjoy what you see here and want to see more, there are now 4 parts out on our gaming channel 4Player where we are trying to conquer the Outlast Trials. And it is probably going as well as you would expect.
There's no way out of here, Jonathan!
That doesn't open! But other than that, be sure to leave me more recommendations down below for stuff you want me to check out. And be sure to go support the original creator. But other than that, I will see you all in the next video.